Hello and welcome to our MHP Deep Dive. Today we deal with the topic how to modernize your business processes with AWS Glue, a consulting approach from MHP and Amazon Web Service. It's great to welcome you to our web session today. I am very pleased to welcome our speakers. Our guests are Vitor Freitas, Stanko Pekovic, and Sven Leis. Great to have you with us today. I'm Stephanie Vetter and I'm also an employee at MHP. Before we get started, here are a few technical tips for you. You can use the chat function to ask our speakers questions during the presentation. Furthermore, you have the possibility to ask your questions personally at the end of the presentation. To do so, please simply use the raise hand tool and I will call you accordingly. Attention here, your microphones are set to mute from your side. Please then unmute yourself accordingly after calling. This may take a short moment, but multiple clicking is not necessary here. The program recognizes your request, but needs a short time to process it. You can view the documents after our deep dives via our MHP Events Media Library, and a video recording of this web session will be available shortly on YouTube as always. Before we really get started, we would like to give you a short hint about the following deep dives in the month of January and February. On January 26, we have a deep dive with the exciting topic Tomorrow's Production, Renting Instead of Buying, how to successfully implement equipment as a service. On February the 16th, we will hear a deep dive on zero impact products, thinking innovative products and climate protection together, an ecological approach for industry. And on February 23rd, a deep dive with the title Immersive Experience Platform, Creating Virtual Worlds of Experience with Lotus, a cloud-based approach to make products digitally experienceable takes place. To stay up to date, follow us on our LinkedIn and Xing channels. There you will find exciting impressions and news about the company. All that remains for me to do now is to wish you a lot of fun at today's deep dive and to hand over to our speaker, Sven.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the nice introduction. And first of all, welcome also from my side to today's MHP Deep Dive. So let's have a short look on today's agenda, what we will present to you today. I will give you a short overview about typical customer challenges, what you are facing, maybe also in your projects with your ETL legacy landscapes. Afterwards, Stanko will give us a short insight about the MHP ETL migration factory consulting approach, and Vitor Freitas from AWS will give us insights about modernization options, benefits of Glue, and benefits of the modernization with AWS partners like MHP. I will have then afterwards 3 major lessons learned, what you will learn today in the deep dive and what we have also learned within our projects. But now we are coming to the typical customer challenges, maybe also your ETL legacy landscapes. So most of our customers are facing end-of-life issues, whether from the infrastructure components or from their software components. And beside that, we have also high amounts of data which has to be handled. So this can cause challenges within your security, speed, and maintainability of your landscapes, which can cause high costs. And of course, you have with your legacy infrastructure, maybe problems with scalability, which is one of the core drivers to move to the cloud for most of our customers. So now, Stanko, can you give us a short introduction about what really our consulting approach is to overcome those challenges?
So thank you, Sven. How to modernize your business processes with AWS Glue. Our proposal is MHP ETL Migration Factory powered by AWS Glue. Let's try to decompose and understand this statement. ETL is about data, right? So extract, transform, and load encapsulates all types of data processing. But why are we needing these activities? Outside of a training or academic circles, at the end of the day, we want to achieve some business goal, to generate some business value. So with modernizing ETL here, we mean modernizing business processes that are data-centric and data-driven. with main technical component being ETL, but there is more to it. Let's see who are the actors. MHP and AWS, both customer-centric companies, entered partnership in order to deliver even faster, to deliver even more value to our mutual customers. AWS offers a reliable platform with cutting-edge services, constantly evolving and improving, together with best practices for enormous number of handled use cases. On the other hand, MHP offers vast business and technical experience in business transformation, industry knowledge, our core industries being mobility and manufacturing. And we also offer know-how in architecting, developing, delivering, and operating customer-specific solutions. From this partnership, our mutual customers can benefit from methodical approach, industry and technology best practices, and vast experience from our previous successful projects. MHP got involved with AWS in AWS Service Delivery Program validations, where we demonstrated in our customer cases that we are following also AWS best practices. Currently, we have 10 SDPs and for different services, and we are also launch partner for a few, but today the most important one being also AWS Glue. Also, we have AWS migration competency, making MHP Migration Acceleration Program, shortly MAP, eligible AWS partner, meaning that we can offer special financial benefits, MAP fundings, for customers that are engaging MAP program with us. Next, migration. Migration is not just to move from one place to another. When you migrate, you take the core, the essence, in our case, business value, from one environment and you put it in another where it will flourish. During migration, one has a unique opportunity to plan holistically and to optimize for the value, having the big picture in mind. Talking about ETL modernization as a migration, we see immediately that almost all aspects of cloud migration apply. Organization need to be cloud ready, so we need to deal with organizational change management and to improve on aspects that might not be fully polished. We need a strong business case that will be almost certainly backed up with arguments from AWS Cloud Value Framework and Cloud Adoption Framework. We need to build a trust between all involved parties, and we need a detailed plan that will support all activities from training people to building landing zone where all activities are going to take place. And we need technical know-how to perform migration and modernization at scale. That's why here we are referring to migration program. Here we see 3 phases of MAP program: assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize. Assess phase is about understanding the landscape and create a general business case. Just to mention a few elements: rapid discovery to understand what we are dealing with, making full migration readiness assessment. That's one of prerequisites to get to the next phase. And here, in the context of ETL, we also have discovering or defining data value streams. Once customer is satisfied and willing to continue with the program, the next phase is mobilize. It's all about creating detailed migration roadmap and being ready to hit the road. So we need to have a full inventory and decide for each particular workload what type of transformation it needs, keyword being 7 Rs. We need to create a detailed project plan determining migration waves. And we need also to have a full list now of data value streams, just to name a few. Finally, the last step is performing migration and modernization at scale, executing the waves, operating securely workloads in AWS Cloud, and continuously modernizing and validating target KPIs for data value streams. Here, before we go to the more technical points, I would like to emphasize once again data value streams as a concept. It's true, from technical standpoint, we are going to be architecting data governance and data processing flows. We will be creating and orchestrating ETL jobs and validating data catalogs. But to underline the bigger picture here, why we are doing all of this, we need a tool for this. Common statement is that data has value, but actually what we are talking about is getting the business value from the data. In other words, getting the right answers in the right moments. So what we need is a clear vision, clear prescription, what we are aiming at, that will guide us through the rest of our planning. Having this clear upfront picture will allow us to have all people on board, to have a common understanding from business to technical, and will allow everyone to make consistent and most appropriate decisions, up to, for example, very technical ones. What's the most sensible partitioning of the data for a particular case? It also allows us to reuse parts of the pipelines and to decide on trade-offs. And when KPIs for particular data value streams are given upfront, we can judge how good architecture and implementations are at the end. Next, factory in this statement, it stands for established, repeatable, standardized processes. Standardized approaches that allow us to perform at scale. I already presented you a few elements that are involved in the factory, so I would move now to the last element, AWS Glue. So we are getting now to AWS service that's central in this offering, AWS Glue. It allows us to glue this proposal together, so to say. And now I will give stage to Vitor from AWS, and he will present you AWS's perspective on their own product, Glue.
Hey, Stanko. Hi, everyone. So first of all, just would like to thank MHP's team for the opportunity to speak here for you all today. But before I talk about AWS Glue and how it plays its part on the ETL modernization in the context of MHP's migration factory, let me start by going again over a few of the customers' challenges that you've heard Stanko talking about, the typical customers' challenges that they face with those legacy ETL systems, and most about the challenges they face when they decide to move away from those legacy systems. As you can see here, when the customers decide to modernize their ETL pipelines, their options are very limited and they usually fall within one of these three buckets. So first, they can upgrade their existing on-premises environment. This means obviously that there's no scalability at all in this case. This could actually be prohibitively expensive. It can actually lock in their business logic into some proprietary language, and customers they normally don't want that. And second, the second option, they can always spin up their own Spark clusters, right? But again, this would normally result in a higher cost of ownership. And this cost actually is not only limited to the cost of purchasing softwares only, but it's the cost of the whole engineering effort involved in setting up, installing, optimizing, tuning, managing those Spark clusters yourself. And finally, the third option, of course, would be to adopt other cloud providers. And while we, AWS, we don't deny these other cloud providers exist, we strongly advise our customers before taking that approach, taking that route, to really make sure that whatever the option they choose, it should not lock in their business logic, it should at least be cost effective, and it should not charge them exorbitant licensing fees or charge them for extra features or capabilities. So those are the things we ask them to pay attention. However, obviously, there's a fourth and much more modern option for customers to consider, which is the adoption of AWS Glue as their own ETL data integration tool, right? Reason being that AWS Glue was really thought, designed, and developed in order to overcome most, if not all, of the challenges that me and Stanko mentioned previously. And in fact, within AWS ecosystem, if you're already an AWS customer, Glue is actually the core service of any modern data architecture that lives in AWS, because it provides capabilities for seamless data movement between services as needed, as well as provides a unified data governance in a performant and cost-effective manner. And one important thing is that we never stop innovating. In fact, Glue follows the same fast pace of innovation of AWS itself. And what that means is that we keep listening to our customers and we keep building the features that are really meaningful to them in some way. As you can see here, this slide, from the left to the right, this is just some of the features of Glue. So we offer the Glue connectors and Glue crawlers so that you can connect to a variety of data sources, being relational, on-premises, on streaming data, for example. And we automatically extract the metadata for you with the help of the crawlers to extract external tables and place them into Glue Data Catalog, which in turn works as a central repository for cataloging metadata, and it actually integrates itself with many other AWS analytics services too. And we also offer Glue ETL jobs, which alongside with the Glue Data Catalog and the crawlers, allow you to discover, cleanse, transform, and aggregate all sets of data from various data stores. and especially designed for streaming type of data. There's something that we have called Glue Schema Registry that basically helps you enforcing schemas and schema evolution throughout the data pipeline, because we know that those failures might occur down the stream. Sometimes some developer might change a schema and this may cause a problem down the line. So this is to prevent that. It's a very, very helpful feature there. And lastly, in order to develop your Glue ETL jobs, there are many ways you can do that. Glue offer many different development mechanisms for multiple different personas, actually. So starting with auto-generated ETL scripts. So if you're using the classical Glue console and using that to build your jobs, behind the scenes, code is being generated for you automatically in the form of ETL scripts. The AWS Glue Studio, which is essentially a graphical tool, very simple to use, drag and drop graphical IDE that ETL developers and data engineers can use to build their jobs. And for those, we know there are some data engineers or data scientists that really loves to code, really loves programming, and they can still do so, and they can run their code using Glue Studio notebooks or Glue interactive sessions, so they can keep their so loved notebook experience, right? And that's not all. Let's say you have data of the business analysts who also wants to be part of the game, who also wants to transform and prepare data on their own. They can simply leverage AWS Glue Data Brew in order to do that. Again, Data Brew is a no-code visual experience for data preparation tasks. Drag and drop, very intuitive, easy to use, just like Glue Studio, but for a different use case, which is data preparation. So yeah, with all these features in mind, it becomes clear now as to why customers keep choosing Glue to modernize their ETLs. Because when we look back to all those challenges that we mentioned in the beginning, and then we try to match those challenges against the features that I have just presented to you, it becomes clear how AWS Glue team has concentrated all their efforts on building a tool, not just a simple ETL tool, but building a service that can actually solve those challenges, not just to be another product on the shelf. So they really look into the problems and they think on a way of solving them. And yeah, there's more benefits on using Glue. So let's see what the customers can expect once they migrate to AWS Glue. The service team, when they build Glue, they build it to be fully managed and serverless. And basically what that means is that Glue comes in with a serverless Spark and Python engine, which can scale at a very cost-effective manner. So scaling means you can launch hundreds of Spark nodes without worrying about infrastructure to set up or configure. Glue does all of that for you automatically. And then again, to solve all these challenges, the Glue team, they built something called auto-scaling, which works, if you're familiar with EC2s, it works similarly, but for the jobs. And in that case, it can scale the number of workers that will resolve your job up and down in response to the workload demand. So basically, if the job demands too much, workers will be going up. If the workload demand just reduces, the job will reduce. That saves on costs, that improves performance, and there's a lot of benefits on going out scaling. That brings me to the next thing, which is the cost effectiveness of Glue. Auto scaling plays a tremendous part on that. And in fact, in our humble estimation, we can authoring jobs and preparing data sets, notebook style experience, powerful AI and ML transforms, data discovery capabilities, as well as multiple ways for you to orchestrate your data pipeline workflows like step functions and other mechanisms, Glue workflows, etc. And performance-wise, again, Glue really excels itself in that space. At each new engine that we release, we start with 0.9, then we just round it up to Glue 1.0. We are now moving from 3.0 to Glue 4.0. And with that version, what we are trying to do is to reduce even further the job start time. Right now, it has been reduced to just a few seconds, sometimes even to sub-seconds. In fact, some of those customers, they're running over 100,000 jobs per day, with some of them processing over 1 petabyte of data in a single day using AWS Glue. So this is really awesome to see. And lastly, we have also decided that within AWS Glue, there should not be any sort of lock-in of your code. So basically, the code that you write in Glue is written in open source PySpark or Scala languages, which can, because they are open source, they can easily be ported over to other environments. Well, I know that's a lot. I know that. So the reason I'm telling this is because once the customers become familiar with all these great benefits and features and capabilities of Glue, they immediately start to figure out how Glue can bring value to their projects. Therefore, they feel much more empowered to use AWS Glue as an accelerator for their data projects. So they're using for that because they know they can leverage centralized data catalog and to catalog their data assets, as well as leveraging all the powerful artificial intelligence and machine learning transforms that Glue offers in order to prepare, clean, and process the data. Right. All right. So yeah, so far I just covered the essential part, the technical essential part of Glue, like being part of a migration modernization puzzle, with just a few glimpses here and there about the business benefits. But let me touch on that part, which is very complex, which comes across the complex business aspects that usually permeates any migration or modernization journey, right? So yeah, here are some key points that I want to cover that we actually need to make customers understand about modernizing ETL landscapes in order for them to succeed. So first of all, the customers, they need to change, that's the very first step, they need to change their mindset towards thinking, like they should stop asking hypothetical questions that start with, if I modernize. And instead, they should be really forward thinking and start asking direct questions that actually start with when I modernize. Because it's not a matter of if, it's actually a matter of when. Because we know that architecture changes all the time, things become legacy pretty fast, and that is inevitable. Customers need to understand those things. And one of the easiest way of making them to understand all of this, the technical and the business challenges, is to show them that modernizing, it might look scary, but it might lead them to new capabilities and discoveries that they might never ever experienced yet, which is great. So it is essentially starting to debate with them over the mentality of what would you do if you had this? And by this, I mean this set of tools, this set of features, this set of capabilities. What would you do with all that? And yet, while they're doing this thought exercise on top of the process of modernizing, one important thing they should be aware and they should not do is basically start comparing feature by feature. Sometimes we get customers saying, my old tool has this feature, the new tool doesn't have that. So this is not the right way to do, not the best path. As opposed to that, they should look at any modernization process with a holistic approach and think about all the benefits that modernization can bring as a whole, rather than just stick to one very limited feature and sticking to this limited feature by feature perspective. Lastly, to conclude, customers must also know that placing everything, all their hopes on the hands of code conversion tools is definitely, again, not the right path, not the right thing to do, because those tools, they exist, automation tools, they are great, but they are to be considered as accelerators for a strategy rather than this whole strategy itself. So don't get this wrong. The luckiest part is that we, AWS, we can 100% count with our great AWS partners, such as MHP, just to work alongside us on this very arduous mission of making people understand exactly where they are stepping into when they finally decide to embark on this very exciting, complex journey of any IT modernization. And because of that, I just want to take the opportunity one more time to thank the entire MHP team for this amazing partnership with us. So thanks, MHP. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, Zen.
Thank you, Vito, for this amazing insights. So now, as I said, a short summary about the lessons learned, what we have saw today. So first of all, the biggest value what you can achieve is when you continually modernize ETL landscape. So with moving your current legacy landscape to AWS, it's just the start. Second one is with the approach what Stanko was presenting, it's really, really scalable. You can do it with automatic tools, so they are supporting us, but also bigger ones. You have the consultants from MHP who can do everything with you together manually. And third, we from MHP side think that the MHP ETL migration factory can be one approach to make your ETL and your big data pipelines really successful, and you as a company also successful. So now I would say, Stephanie, we are at the end of our presentation. Are there
Thank you.
any questions, anything else?
Thank you very much for the exciting insights so far. During the presentation, some interesting questions have already come in. I will start directly with the first question. The first question is, we are already making data catalogs in our data lake. So what are the benefits then of data value streams that you mentioned?
I will answer this. Data catalogs offer detailed overview of all available data elements in the system and their structure. So they are indispensable tool that we are creating and using. But with data value streams, we are rising one level up, making sense of what data we are handling and why. What's the purpose? What is the business value that we are generating from this data? So getting a full picture end to end of different value streams, of different transformation, how they interplay and how expected and realized additional value fit together. It's also important that in this way we are using common language, ubiquitous language in DDT terms, so to say. So not forcing business to learn data engineering jargon in order to set the vision and goals to be achieved.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have any time left to ask any more questions, but if you have any questions after today's event, please feel free to contact our speakers personally at any time. You can find their contact details in the slides. In this context, I would also like to thank our speakers and especially our guest from AWS, Mr. Freitas. Thank you very much for being our guest today. It was a lot of fun and I could really feel how much you enjoyed the project. As we are slowly coming to the end of our web session, here is another hint about our upcoming deep dives. And on the next slide, you will see the link to our media library, where you can access the presentation documents at any time, and the link for the video recording of this session, which we will also upload on YouTube shortly, as always. That brings us to the end for today. I wish you a great day and look forward to the next MHP deep dive with you. Stay healthy.
Bye.